made it.
This
So
is gonna have to get sliced in at the beginning, otherwise people are gonna be. It's so creepy, dude.
Okay, so this entire time, Alex has apparently had
The
this like
video broadcast with the eye
yeah, like
tracking, which we didn't talk about, but I guess
yeah, it's
everyone
true. I should have brought that up.
I cannot believe it.
Wonderful.
I can't believe we record the
pretty
entire episode like that.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, every episode is going to be a little better. So next
Yeah.
episode, I won't have crazy eyes. Yeah, this is wonderful.
I guess I met you in person, so I should have known. Like, oh yeah, Alex's eyes don't really look like that.
I've always been extremely cross-eyed.
I gotta get a screen cap of this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the unofficial Unreal Engine podcast, where we talk about Unreal Engine and boiled tree sap. We're your hosts. My name's Alex, and this is
Jacob.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. If you're listening, give us a rating. If you're watching, subscribe, like, do all of that. It really helps. We apologize that our episodes don't seem to come out that frequently. However, good news. Alex, would you like to introduce our new producer?
Yes, we finally have a producer. His name is Alan Scott, and he will make it so we can do more than one episode a month. And between having a proper producer and this wonderful virtual studio that our audio-only listeners will need to check out, at least for a moment on YouTube to see how cool this is, I think we're doing pretty well. Jacob, how did we go about acquiring this virtual studio? Did this cost us millions of dollars?
That's not at my discretion to say. No.
Jacob, I hope everyone thinks the wait was worth it, because here we are in this amazing new virtual studio.
Yeah.
Who do we have to thank for this lovely Unreal Engine demo scene that may or may not exist anymore?
Well, yeah, for folks who are just listening in, we are sitting in none other than Unreal Engine's original demo scene with the orange table, orange chairs, and everything. And it's all thanks to our special guest this week, Vikas Reddy, who's here with us over here. There we go. There he is.
Hey guys.
Welcome.
And the great people over at LightTwist, we really appreciate all their help getting this set up. Here we are. Vikas, would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, great to be here, guys. I'm the founder and CEO of LightTwist, and super excited to be on the show today.
Let's jump into things. So we like to do a little bit of a word association with guests who come on the show, just to get things warmed up, get things started here. So I'm going to say a few words, and you're just going to throw back at me kind of the first thing that comes in your head.
All right, sounds good.
Home.
Where I want to be.
That's more than one word, but I'll give it to you.
Oh shit, there's one word.
Okay,
okay, fine. Work.
Fun.
Food.
Grilled cheese.
Nice. Travel.
Italy.
Okay. Drink.
Old fashioned.
Ooh, good choice. Unreal Engine.
Powerful.
Nice. Now there's a few additional questions that get tacked on then here is, how do you take your coffee?
Usually black.
Usually black. What does usually mean in that situation?
It's either black or I do almond milk lattes. That's about it.
Almond milk lattes. Do you have like an espresso machine?
Usually it's French press when I make it at home, and then it's almond milk when I buy it from the crazy expensive but awesome coffee shop 2 blocks away.
Fair. All right.
$49 latte.
Yeah, exactly.
Nowadays.
What's your favorite time of day?
I would say late mornings on weekends, I'd say.
Okay, that's a good choice. And then what was the last thing you really laughed at? Like, what was something that was the last thing that memorably funny?
So my son this morning on the way to preschool he said, "Dad, when will humans go extinct?" And I was like, I hope never. And then he said, well, you never know. And that like both made me laugh and creep me out a little bit because I'm not sure what his plans are around this.
Right.
Yeah.
You always
Yeah,
imagine they're
maybe a
scheming.
little too excited.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta make sure I'm trying to figure out the right way to look at you guys. I think it's right there. Okay, there we go. I got it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Alex, what's new? What are we talking about?
Ooh, well, I think considering right now we're going about once a month, there's plenty of stuff we can talk about of what happened over the last month. We can talk holidays, we can talk new things we played with in Unreal. Me personally, my last month has involved a lot of Nvidia products inside of Unreal, and so that's some of the things I'd like to talk about today. Some SDKs, some nice features there, and oh yeah, behind me there's a very cool webinar that I'll be doing with Autodesk and NVIDIA about something called virtual reality capture and replay. And that will be in early February, February 7th, I think.
Now, before we actually jump into all that, I realize we're getting scatterbrained here. First, I think we should let our guests maybe introduce themselves a bit before we jump right in. We don't talk for a month and we get very excited and we jump right into things.
Well, I mean, I also want to hear what Vikas thinks of all the exciting NVIDIA Unreal Engine things out
yes,
there.
Yes,
yes,
but
certainly. We want people to know who he is and why he's so
yeah, let's let him tell people who he is and also about LightTwist, since here we are.
Yeah. No, I'll say, excited to be here, and I'm excited to work with you guys in this virtual studio here. So LightTwist is it's a virtual studio in the cloud, a virtual video studio in the cloud. Our goal is to make it where it's limited only by your imagination. So the idea of with just a browser and a webcam, you're able to stream yourself and guests, co-hosts, potentially, down the road, even doing things like avatars and everything else, but essentially being able to record and stream from this virtual studio that's purely rendered in the cloud and using Unreal Engine 5.1 right now. So like all the computer vision processing, all the rendering is done on the cloud side. You do need a reasonably good internet connection, but that's about it. And so we're still pretty early days. Like it's about a 3-person team. And we're just cranking away, trying to get to a private beta. And thanks guys for dealing with our currently still pretty shitty UI, which should get better the next couple weeks here.
It's great. And I remember, because when you first showed me this, how excited I was, because this is such a great use of cloud streaming, being able to have a beautifully rendered Unreal Engine environment. For those who are just listening, there's also this cool effect they have where there's like reflections on the table.
Yeah.
Also, we should say a little bit what the studio looks like. We are, I think, the torchbearers now of this starter Unreal Engine scene, the one with the orange table and the orange chairs. I don't think that scene is included in the latest versions of Unreal.
It's not.
Oh, really?
We want to keep this alive.
It's not the default anymore. It's been dethroned by some weird terrain. I mean, I don't know what that's about. I haven't checked. I think maybe the table's still in the starter content. I can't imagine they axed it entirely, but here we are, the last and maybe the first to be sitting here, on a podcast.
Yeah. And Vikas, you have such an amazing history. Can you talk a little bit about maybe start around like college or something that work your way back up to now?
Yeah, for sure. And it's I honestly feel like I'm a pretty lucky person overall. Like I kind of like just a rolling set of luck to get where I am, and just awesome getting to meet awesome people. So yeah, I mean, started I studied computer science and math in undergrad. Ended up just meeting awesome people. I went to the University of Michigan. Met up with ended up getting just myself and my friend Jeff Powers met at the University of Michigan, and we essentially started this company called I guess it was still called Occipital, but basically we started a company around computer vision. We ended up getting into Techstars, which was sort of an early seed stage incubator based in Boulder. That was like, we failed to raise money out of the incubator, and then we're like, let's just build a stupid barcode scanning app to make some money. Ended up building this app called Red Laser, which was like a barcode scanning app that had a small bit of computer vision, but essentially letting the original iPhone scan blurry barcodes. So we built this about 20,000 line algorithm to do that. And then, yeah, that ended up doing crazily well. It was still like probably on a percentage basis the most profitable because we were paying ourselves like 1,200 a month. And then at the peak, the app was making like 20, 30K a day, which was crazy.
Wow.
And then, yeah, I was like, I wish it stayed there for a long time, but that would be nice. But yeah, it ended up, it was in the top 5 of the App Store for a while, which was a wild ride. And then ended up getting acquired by eBay in 2010. And then, yeah, we started, really, we kept a lot of the IP. We sold the product to eBay, but got to keep all the like name and the occipital name, a bunch of IP that we developed that was like not yet released. And so, yeah, that was that. And then, yeah, with occipital, just all about 3D perception, 3D capture. And so that's what we ended up working on there. So things like structure sensor, things like, so that was like a 3D platform that we created first time we built some hardware, which was like its own crazy endeavor. So we had the structure sensor, which was launched on Kickstarter, and yeah, it was a crazy wild ride and experience. And then yeah, I ended up getting basically left there. It's about a 60-person team now, I think. And so yeah, I left there in early 2020, and then yeah, basically I was gonna take a year or two off, but like the whole pandemic happened, and so I was stuck in my basement anyway, and cranking away and hacking on stuff. So yeah, like it was yeah, ended up getting bored and starting LightTwist.
So what was the like original inspiration for LightTwist?
So I think like a lot of people I went through Y Combinator at the end or beginning of 2021, and I was prototyping a bunch of different ideas. Actually, like the one that sort of led to this, funnily enough, was an AR pet idea I was exploring, and then showed that to a friend of mine who was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Like, and then he's like, "Oh, I wonder if there's something you could do with like virtual production." I was like, "Oh, what is that?" I was like, "You mean like green screen stuff, whatever?" And then he pointed me over to the whole like uh, virtual, the LED light stage from The Mandalorian. And I'd watched the show, but I literally had no idea that they like built like a 10,000 square foot light stage and everything else that was involved there. And was kind of mind blown. I was like, and given my background in computer vision and spatial computing, it just started me thinking about like, hey, is there a way to make this type of technology like much more accessible to like everyday creators, just people that don't have all the knowledge or the experience or the dollars to spend. So that's where we started, and we prototyped a iPhone app, we built a Mac app, and like eventually landed on this cloud version for a variety of reasons. But yeah, it's been cool, and I will say the whole virtual production world, similar to I'd say AR, VR, and computer vision, it's a pretty small world, and people are pretty like awesome and friendly. In fact, that's how I met Alex. I think I just reached out on Twitter randomly.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, can I get your advice on virtual production? Because I don't know what the hell I'm doing really. So yeah, thanks again for that, Alex. And yeah, that's how we got going.
Amazing.
And at that point, I was already a fan of all the occipital stuff because I'd use that a lot in architecture work and would often put those scans into Unreal. So it was very.
Oh yeah, nice.
We helped each other.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
By the way, what was your initial introduction to Unreal Engine? We try to get these Unreal Engine origin.
Oh yeah. So you know what? I wonder if I can, if I can pull it up, I'll do it. Yeah, or we can splice it in later maybe. But so I mean, the first time was like after reading all this, I started just like I was like, okay, let me just prototype some ideas without like really writing code. Just like, okay, let me just try some demos using just like off the shelf tools. And so actually, funnily enough, my first one was the first video I made was a video of a little toy sheep actually in the default room that you guys are in right now, where it was like a tracked camera. I think I used like, what's that app called? AR Cam or whatever. There's like an app, there's an app that like lets you like track your camera. And so like I used that to kind of record some footage and then composite it with Unreal. And so that was my first experience.
Cool. Yeah. The current system for anyone curious is you either use an older app called Unreal Remote 2, or now you can actually use VCam, which of course stands for Virtual Cam, and that also uses live link. And it used to be that needed to have a remote session connection, which was a little, but as of Unreal Engine 5.1, it actually works with pixel streaming, which makes it super robust and easy to use.
For sure.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
it
that
turns
was
its
an
phone
awesome
into
case.
a camera. Sorry, just explaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me more about this initial topic, or that's right behind us here, Alex.
Sure. Yeah. So this is some software that someone at Nvidia contacted me about maybe 6 or 8 months ago, and wondered if it would be something useful in our workflow. And I had no idea what it even was. And I read through the SDK, and I didn't quite understand it. Downloaded it, opened it up. It felt like very raw, like it was just a bunch of batch files or command files where like the
Yeah.
steps were labeled for like click on this for step one, click on this for step two. And for step one, basically, I opened it and I realized it detected my headset and my controllers, and it just started to record everything my headset and controllers were doing. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. But then that made me realize that, hey, there's a lot of times when I'm working in an Unreal Engine project and I'm taking the headset on and off over and over and over again. I'll demonstrate it very directly. Here's a headset. I do like check something, click, 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 take it off, change the code, put it back on,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. And you do that 50 times and your neck is sore and you're kind of sick of it. So what this allows you to do is actually record a file and then play it back perfectly, exactly what you did without having to put the headset back on, which is really great if there's like some sequence of events where you're trying to improve a feature or do a bug fix. And we started to use that more and more. We started to incorporate it into our cloud system. And I love it. It's really, really great. And it was very kind of NVIDIA to ask me to be on a webinar with them and Autodesk to speak about the utility of their SDK there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it goes back to, I remember for a while, HTC had the, we're going to talk about an HTC headset maybe a little later in the podcast, but they made the, what was it called? The Elite something.
The
And it had
XR
that
Elite.
flip up display. I
Oh,
remember that. I was thinking, oh, that's such a cool feature. Oh
was that
no.
the Cosmos?
I have it. Maybe actually I don't have it here, but no, it was just, it flipped right up so that you could do that kind of like, the thing you're talking about, which was
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
I used to be developing in VR, and by the end my hair would just be standing straight up because I'd be taking
Right.
the thing on and off so much, and I actually be standing up because I was getting frustrated at working with the Oculus SDKs, and then the second was because I was taking it on and off. But that's a pretty cool thing. So does that like help you kind of just automate the testing process, or is it really just like you don't need to pick up a headset, you don't even need to have a headset on hand? Is that really?
Yeah, and you can. That's true. Also, if you're working with a developer who doesn't actually even have a VR headset, you can send them just this directory. There's nothing to even install, and they can then simulate, having a headset connected to their computer and playing back all this data, which is really helpful if you want them to, help fix something or help develop something.
That's just one of these tools, though. There's been a whole suite of things that you've been looking at. What's been exciting?
Yeah, we'll whiz through a couple of these. In fact, Vikas, if you want to pull up just any of those NVIDIA related links, I could probably just riff for a minute on each of them. Because it really, where this started was just finding the branch of Unreal Engine that
Oh
NVIDIA
yeah,
actually maintains. Every time there's a new release of Unreal, NVIDIA is like, well, here's our spin on that. And so they have their own GitHub kind of setup there. And I started to realize how many other plugins and SDKs were in there that I hadn't touched before. Usually you can enable these plugins separately in Unreal Engine. So there's one called RTX DI, which stands for Direct Illumination. There also was RTX GI, Global Illumination, which was kind of an alternative to Lumen, and that's being phased out a little bit now. But the direct illumination stuff is super cool and actually pairs well with Lumen because it actually allows you to have up to 256 real-time shadow casting, ray traced, movable lights inside your scene, which even Lumen can't really do that well on its own. And it looks amazing. So there's a little video I have on Twitter that just kind of shows moving around all those different lights and starting to check it out in VR in particular. Because a lot of these SDKs, they work well with regular vanilla Unreal, but a lot
Yeah.
of them aren't designed for VR. So some of the super sampling stuff, and even DLSS 3, which isn't out yet, that one's not available for VR yet either. So yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely I saw some of the footage that you posted about your experiments with direct illumination, because I remember back in the day looking at the RTX GI that was released on that branch. Oh yeah, here's exactly the video I remember seeing, and I get the feeling Twitter coming through the stream might be a little weird. Oh no, it looks great.
It's okay. Yeah, there we go.
Um, yeah, I mean, I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, this is great, and then trying to get my hands on it, and I couldn't really at the time. But it looks like, I mean, it's come so far, and I'm curious to kind of see how this plays into the ecosystem of the different rendering options we're seeing in Unreal, especially since they're kind of deprecating or they're kind of deprecating. I should really emphasize the kind of,
Yeah.
the ray tracing, the real time ray tracing features that are built into the engine in favor of Lumen, and maybe having Nvidia support that other branches.
Yeah, and not to speak for Epic, but I read into their intentions here when they say things like ray tracing is becoming deprecated. It's more like they're trying to take all the great things about ray tracing and path tracing and that kind of stuff and bake that into Lumen. So eventually, there's no reason to do anything except Lumen because there will just be
Yeah,
sliders and plugins that can, for all intents and purposes, do exactly the same thing.
I mean, for sure. I mean, one of the most one of the things that I know we've touched on before on this podcast is the fact it's just all the compatibility that's you have to consider when you're
Yeah.
working with ray tracing and different hardware. I think Lumen's part of Lumen's goal is to make it as scalable as possible, right? From a mobile phone, and I remember you running some tests with Nanite recently that were kind of along these lines, right? Like
That's right.
scaling from a mobile phone all the way up to a workstation, and making sure that across all these different devices with all sorts of different. Oh no, he got the 404 and GitHub.
Yeah.
Uh,
Explain why.
um, across all these different devices with maybe different types of GPUs, that they all kind of work seamlessly, right? You don't have to think about it, and
Excellent.
so that's I think been a big goal with Lumen as well. And if you can get away from having to need something like you know a an RTX enabled GPU, because you're not going to have an RTX enabled GPU on your phone, or like, I think that's a good thing at the end of the day, even if the best experience is still requires some specialized acceleration like you would get out of an NVIDIA GPU.
Yeah, and that's why pixel streaming and things like Cloud XR are so great at helping that kind of stuff out. And Vikas, if you want to go back to the 404 real quick, I hear
oh
people
yeah,
talk about this all the time. So this is a great moment to point out. Anytime I post a link and I say, like, here's the NVIDIA source build, here's the Unreal Engine source build,
Yeah,
people are like, oh, it just gives a 404 error. The reason for that is you actually need to create a GitHub account, and then you need to connect your account to the Epic Games Unreal Engine repository. It's public, but you need to actually like become a member of it, a contributor, so to speak, and
yeah,
then you won't get that 404 message, and the links will work.
yeah. This
But yeah,
this
yeah, go ahead.
just to tail off this, I mean, it's a pretty interesting thing that they do with this repository, because, like Alex said, it's you need to register your account, and it's part of their EULA, and it's all that. Making sure that anyone who has access to the source code, accepts all their terms, and accepts the license, all that. That makes sense. But I remember last year there was a big issue
oh yeah.
because,
I know what you're
and
talking
yeah,
about.
he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Both of you probably do.
Yeah,
And that
Yeah,
there were, I don't know, I think it's like there are at least 30,000 people connected with notifications to that repository.
yeah,
And someone realized that you can actually just spam 30,000, or it was probably more than that. It's probably in the hundreds of thousands of people's emails through GitHub issues and all this other stuff. And so I woke up one day, and I assume maybe you guys did too, to crazy emails with all sorts of awful content in it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Because someone was just spamming stuff into it, and it was a huge thing. So now I think you have to like have specific rights to create issues or whatever. I can't remember how they fixed it, but that that was kind of funny. I don't think anyone else. I don't know any other situations where Epic's model here applies at the scale that they're doing. Quote unquote. Source availability, so to speak, not open
Yeah.
source,
Yeah.
but yeah.
It's amazing that it never happened before.
Yeah. I was like, I'm pretty new to Unreal. I'm like, really, this never happened in the last like
No,
5 to
someone
whatever years. Yeah.
found a specific way to like tag everyone. Like
Oh yeah,
it
yeah.
was
Okay.
something that there was some hidden group that if you tagged them,
Okay.
it
Okay.
would get notified.
Wasn't the original message like a feature? Was it a feature request or something? It was like,
Oh, I don't know. I don't
yeah, I'd have
know.
to look at
Yeah,
that.
I did not scroll that far up, man. A few messages in, I was like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah, there's definitely some questionable ones on there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But if we
sorry.
want,
Let's continue. I didn't mean to get too sidetracked.
yeah, if we want to touch again briefly on actually, zoom into that. What are we looking at there? Oh, this is like a shout out for later. So yeah, we'll
Oh
cover
yeah,
that
sorry.
in a
We can
moment.
go back to that. Yeah.
The Cloud XR thing. So I just want to make sure people understand that what this allows you to do is almost something like pixel streaming for VR. So this allows you to have any computer, can be in the cloud, could be your office computer, could be your home computer, and then a little bit like virtual desktop, you can now just use a cheap, Quest headset or whatever. It could be Vive, could be a top computer. You now have a way to tunnel in to that computer to access the content, which is great if you have a little headset with a mobile GPU, and now you're able to actually experience very high end content on like an RTX 4090 streaming back to that headset. And so we do this all the time, actually using Jacob's company's services. And if we're connecting to something like a New York City server, then it feels like the latency is completely imperceptible. There's some really clever stuff NVIDIA's doing with predictive algorithms and that sort of thing. So you really do not feel the latency as long as you have a decent enough internet connection. And really excited for the roadmap of that. I know some of the things that are on the horizon, so everyone keep an eye for it, and certainly apply for access if it's something you'd like to use as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Cloud XR is a cool one, and I mean, our last episode we spoke about Christmas Carol and some of the stuff that you and your team did there. I mean, that was and I think I said it on that podcast episode. That was one of the first times I had seen Cloud XR actually deployed with any sort of scale or intention, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Alex for jumping on this one. I think Nvidia likes him for it too, because it's one of those texts that I think it is text. That is not a noun.
Technologies.
One of those technologies that I think is really cool, but not a whole lot of people are out there really trying to apply it. But Alex is definitely one of them. So this is one of the things though to keep an eye on, because I think it's such an exciting possibility, and it's something that in the VR scene at least, like everyone thought was just going to be impossible.
So here's what I'd like for LightTwist to think about, maybe down the line, a year or two from now. In
Yeah.
addition to having this kind of awesome pixel stream setup, that, by the way, we're seeing perfectly right now with very little latency in front of us. How about a Cloud XR version as well, where if Jacob and I, for example, were using stereo 180 cameras, then
Ooh,
someone's
yeah.
in VR and they're actually getting a different view to the
Yeah.
left and right eye, and it feels like we're here with dimension.
That'd be cool.
That would be awesome. Yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, especially. I mean, yeah. Get like what you guys did with that with the Christmas Carol is pretty impressive, because yeah, that I always kind of was like, oh, it's got to be too high latency, and so yeah, you could actually do something like this where the audience is getting to participate. Like you guys could, you could imagine having like, a couple hundred people sitting there watching like a show essentially, and then being able to like interact and sort of see what's going on and feeling like they're actually there.
Yeah, I want to see, Alex, what we could do with those Connect Azure sensors that we played around with. because then you could have kind of a 3D
Authentic.
effect to us, and everything
Yeah.
around you, and that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think yeah, I think, and the other thing that I think with VR that'd be interesting too is like, we thought about what if could you have yourself, for the creators or like the people putting on the show, even wearing a headset and sort of having like yourself tracked and sort of in that case being more of an avatar type approach as well, which I think is also another thing that we could use something like Cloud XR for perhaps.
Yeah.
For sure.
It kind of seems to some extent that like you similar to what you were saying earlier, you're kind of trying to replicate that virtual production workflow, but entirely remote, where everyone's in a completely different place. That's very interesting. I mean, how do you think about that? Like, how do you think about the kind of challenges you're trying to solve compared to virtual production today?
Yeah, I would say it's part of it's like going after a different different type of audience, I would say, because like there's a lot of a lot of the existing virtual production stuff is it's frankly pretty amazing and the quality is just mind-blowing. But yeah, there's certain friction points for people to access that. So either you're either they're physically recording kind of all together on the same set, or I mean there are cases where you can do stuff remotely, but then it usually is like involving having somebody that's quite knowledgeable at Unreal Engine, kind of like doing something more offline typically. And so what we've tried to reframe it around and then kind of go after is sort of think of our product as a physical analogy. So it's like it is this like physical feeling studio in the cloud that has like magical things that can happen, like where I can turn things on and off, or it's like it's something that you have this like this power, or imaginative power over. And then yeah, it is remote, so you can actually have like three of us all in different locations, showing up together. Now there's challenges. Like I think we're we've made some strides on things like quality, but there's a lot of room to go there. Like our the things like just getting cameras and lighting and everything else. Like there are some benefits of a physical location because you can like more specifically control those things. And so what we're trying to do is use software to make up for some of those differences, like or some of those sort of deficiencies. So yeah, there's a trade off, and I think it's also a different audience, like people that wouldn't traditionally think that they could access this type of virtual production technology. They might even not even think of it as virtual production. They're just like, hey, I just want like a cool studio to like do this in and like have a talk show and like we're experimenting on some cool game show stuff. It's just yeah, it's been interesting. There's a lot of ways to room to go though. I always not just the UI itself, but the actual output I look at, and I'm like, we're not even pushing what we could do with 5.1 on Unreal Engine yet, and then
Yeah.
there's a ton of work we can do to improve the compositing. But yeah, it's a pretty fun field. There's like we're like I was talking with Gustavo, my co-founder. We're like, yeah, there's probably like 10 years of features we could just keep continually building because that's this whole. I mean, as you guys well know, there's so much to be built and so many things to be explored here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've spoken a few times now. Oh, Alex, are you trying to jump in there?
That's okay. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the LightTwist podcast, which is wonderful. I was fortunate to be a guest on it, so this is a bit of a trade.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And every episode at the end they do, as Vikas alluded to, this kind of like video game showdown. I think we did like Tetris when I was on there, and it's really fun.
yeah.
It's just like a great little way to end the show, and it's all displayed wonderfully in their studio. And all those episodes are excellent. And in fact, they've interviewed a few people that we've featured in our shout outs before. So if you like hearing about the shout outs we've been saying, then actually go find full interviews with those people.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that shout out. Yeah, it was awesome having you on there, and yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought a bit, but what I wanted to touch on was
Yeah,
you've mentioned a few times things like computer vision. So for the
yeah,
folks who are listening in, can you tell them more about what computer vision is, kind of
yeah, yeah,
like what it is that does, and how it applies maybe to
yeah.
what they're seeing on screen?
Yeah, it's a good question actually because I think it's used it's a pretty broad term. So, probably the best way I would sort of describe it is if you think about a futuristic, all human human capable robot, there's kind of like three parts of that robot. There's the body of it. There's the sort of planning, like motivation, sort of AI, like what does it want to do? How does it want to operate in the world? And there's another part which I'd call perception, and maybe you could put that under computer vision, but it's sort of a way to use cameras or other sensors or imagery to create a machine understandable understanding of what's in the world. You can almost think of it as, um, one way to think about it is almost like reverse. It's almost the opposite of what Unreal Engine or other game engines do. It's kind of like a reverse game engine. You go from, instead of going from a model of a virtual space and rendering that into an image, you're effectively doing the inverse of that. So you're actually going from imagery back to a representation of what's in the world. And that's useful in a lot of contexts. But for us specifically at LightTwist, like one of the things is doing like background segmentation, for example. So kind of understanding, labeling in an image what's background and what's foreground, to composite into a scene. We have like a still being tweaked, but a deep learning based algorithm for the green screen as well, to be like robust to crappier green screens, essentially, where you don't have to like have perfect lighting. And then down the road, like doing things like, we've have a prototype of a avatar tracker that can track your facial motion, your hands, your body with just an image, so kind of all together. And that's again sort of building an understanding of what's in the world, and then being able to leverage that for virtual production in our case. But obviously the use cases of computer vision are vast. There's like millions and billions of things you can do with it.
Yeah, very cool. Now, one other thing I have to ask is, how do you get these reflections on these tables?
I mean, and there it's I should say there, like I got to give credit to the Unreal team, and all the people that worked on the engine and various parts there, because really what we're doing there is there are some techniques we're doing in the how we're rendering sort of these you guys into this scene, and right now we're actually taking kind of it's kind of like the first like baby steps. It's like you guys are being rendered as effectively 2.5D planes. So your 2D planes that are, in the scene, and you're kind of rotating a little bit toward the camera as the camera pans around a little bit here. And there's some techniques that, and a shout out to Scott on our team, who is like our Unreal Engine expert, and figured out some of the tricks to actually make this happen. So some of it's like doing some how we render to the depth buffer, how we sort of do transparency stuff. And if he was on right now, he'd probably be like, "Oh no, here's actually what you're doing," and just instead of me fumbling around it, because I'm definitely pretty weak on the Unreal knowledge at the guts level. So, but yeah, I mean, basically that's some of it. So in a sense, another way, essentially what we're doing is we're kind of setting things up in such a way that Unreal Engine is just handling the reflections and stuff for us.
Yeah.
Like we get it for free, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, it works well, and you can't take for granted the fact that the table is including us, and like there's so much going on here that I think you could take for granted, because it's not distracting, right? It looks good, and I think that's really pretty impressive what you guys have already accomplished.
Thanks. Yeah, it's funny because I look at it, I'm like, man, this looks like shit. We got to do so much better. It's always I'm always self-critical.
Well,
I guess. But yeah, I mean,
I want
it's getting there.
I want the any viewers or listeners who maybe go back and check out the video to know, this did not take hours and hours to set up, and Alex and I have not really done much of anything to our setup. So right, I have a webcam, I have a mic that I just pulled a little close to me. I'm sure I still sound pretty far, but I pulled it a little close to me. I threw the lights in the room as best I could against this green screen, which is not well lit, and it's working. So I do want people to recognize that it does work kind of out of the box, which is impressive for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'm excited for there to be kind of a timeline here. Like, I think it'll be fun to go back even a year from now. And I'm sure each of these episodes, all sorts of little tweaks on our end, and on the LightTwist end are just going to keep improving this. So it'll be fun to see, even though I think this is amazing, how far we'll continue to go here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
For people who are interested, how can they check out what you guys are doing, and when are they getting their hands on this?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right now, right now we're in a stage where I'd call private alpha, where it's like we're working with some early customers and users, but it's very handholdy, as you guys saw. UI is still pretty shitty and a little bit broken, but I'm hoping by the end of like I'd say middle February, maybe early February, we'll have private beta. So there's a couple last things we're working on, like auto scaling some of our servers, processing, and then a native iPhone app to just make it easier to just get high quality video piped in. And so yeah, I mean that's the rough timeline. I'd say like on the order of a couple of weeks to get to private beta. And yeah, if people want to sign up, they can either just go to lightwist.com and kind of fill out the type form. And I basically respond to every single person that signs up there to do like a quick intro call. And I kind of have been trying to bucket people in the lists of like, here's who I think this product might be good for once we have the private beta ready. So sign up there, or yeah, feel free to email me at vikas@lightwist.com too. But yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
And what if people want to get a hold of you in particular?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Then email me at vikas@lightwist.com, or I'm usually pretty active on Twitter because I'm extremely addicted. And so yeah, I'm at Vikas Reddy on Twitter. So feel free to DM me or at me there too. But yeah, I mean, especially like I'd love to just anyone that's working in virtual production, computer vision, just like people trying to build cool things. It just gets me excited. So,
yeah. So
what
are you excited for? I'm gonna stop you right there.
Because,
that's I think a question we love to talk about here. Is what are you excited about? What are you excited about in Unreal? What are you excited about maybe in this space in general?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, so many things. So, like, I'll stick to like virtual production because I think that's obviously it's quite relevant for all of us here in Unreal. So, one thing is I'm super excited about just going from not just with our product but just in general this idea of just more and more unleashed creativity with especially things like avatars. So that's actually one thing that so one bit of a tangent topic, but maybe prediction for the future is there's these kind of two paths that we're pursuing as far as how do we bring people into these virtual studios. So one path is use real video and maybe enhance that with depth and kind of take a volumetric video approach. And another path is to take something more like a avatar approach to try to recreate an avatar that's as close as you can get to reality and sort of take it that way. And then there's this kind of in between, which is happening now, where people are using neural rendering techniques. Synthesia is a really good company doing this. They're some people from University of Munich. So there's starting to be these new techniques around that. And the reason I'm excited about that is that you can start to get something where, right now we have like certain limitations on camera angles and like lighting and stuff. Like you guys are, we like right now it looks okay, but if we went on an extreme camera angle, it might not look, it would start to break down a bit. And so I'm excited for exploring all the things that can be done with a combination of avatars and neural rendering, where you're able to have people that are, like imagine like we're doing this and like we're recording a scene. Maybe we're all wearing headsets and we're controlling, characters and we're recording a scene together. So not just kind of a show format, but almost more of like getting into creativity, where it's like we record a scene, the three of us are interacting. Now you get to go back into it and replay that or sort of redo that from any possible camera angle you want, tweak the lighting if you want. Like, I mean, a lot of this stuff is already possible in Unreal today, which is actually pretty amazing. It's just that it takes a lot of work to kind of pull it all together, essentially. And so I think making that streamlined is going to be exciting. And then another thing is like combining game engines with some of this generative AI stuff. I think is going to be really interesting because to me, there's this choice between game engines, which give you a more or less predictable, such a repeatable output, versus like generative AI, which is more dreamlike in some ways. And I think combining those two, like for example, in fact, this is something I'm experimenting with. I'll post a demo once I have it, but doing some different demos with like piping Unreal Engine renders content into some like stability or stable diffusion and using the depth output and stuff. So I think there's an interesting
Yeah.
future around combining like game engines and generative AI for sure.
Yeah. That's one of the things we've spoken a couple times now about on the podcast, things like text to image and nerfs. And Alex, I know, has experimented with, I think, every volumetric capture solution on the planet. So he can
Yeah.
speak to that kind of stuff for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Should we do some shout outs?
Yeah, let's jump into some shout outs.
Yeah. I'll pull up, tell me what you want to pull up, but I've got, was this one of them?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Jonathan Winbrush, who's a great Unreal Engine instructor, I got to meet him at Unreal Fest. I just love this little story that he posted of basically just a kid who just really got excited about Unreal Engine and then went through a bunch of his tutorials and realized how much this could open up the world for him. He made a meta-human that looked like him, and just I'm so thrilled for anyone who's young right now and is fortunate enough to have access to a computer that can run Unreal Engine, which, by the way, things like pixel streaming, I hope will continue to democratize. Don't forget, 5.1 of Unreal Engine can pixel stream the entire browser or the entire editor window. But I love these stories. I just find these really heartwarming. So, anyone who's got kids that seem like they might be interested in creating amazing worlds, go ahead, show it to them. My kids are still working on some really fun video games that we've been like slowly developing over the past couple of years, and they're learning like enough about blueprints and the VR development side of all this to really go wild. And also, we didn't talk about ChatGPT at all, but
Yeah. Well, I have a shout out next.
Oh, great.
Right along
All
those
I'll say there is the questions my kids are asking ChatGPT now about how to do this in Unreal is amazing, and I love it.
Yeah.
And what a world we're entering now.
Yeah. Well, my first shout out was going to be to Clippy.
Yeah.
I've seen such a resurgence of Clippy, and I gotta say, so the CFO of the company I work for has an unnatural love for Clippy, and we made fun of him a lot for that, given the fact that Clippy was pretty much useless throughout Clippy's lifetime. But now there's a resurgence, and I think everyone's in agreement that OpenAI needs to bring back Clippy as our overlord and savior. Across every app. Honestly, at this point, I'd be okay with Clippy popping up in my VS Code window, or showing up in Unreal Engine and telling me when I'm doing something wrong. I'm cool with that. So, first shout outs to Clippy. That's.
I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna see if I can get ChatGPT to write a little poem about
Clippy.
Write a poem. Or actually, I'll say write a limerick. About Clippy, about how it was the original Chat GPT.
Wow.
Let's see what happens here.
Oh my god.
Yeah, here it is.
Clippy, okay.
Yeah, we'll have to read this whole thing out loud for our audio.
Yeah, I can read this here.
Wait,
so,
let it finish. We got to read this start to end, because this is interpret. We got to really get the emotion behind it. Oh my god!
All right.
Great.
So we got. There was once an AI named Clippy. It was quite chatty and quite snippy. It tried to assist, but just couldn't resist, being the original ChatGPT. Quite zippy.
Nice. I mean, you definitely gave it a bit of a leading question, but well executed overall.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do is just tack on to make it interpret things in different accents, because trying to write a word in a different accent doesn't mean anything, right? Like, we know that. Like, writing English words in a British accent does not change the words. But it's great because ChatGPT will just go ahead and make it as offensive as possible.
No.
And that's been a fun pastime, is getting it to write poems in like like Boston accents and stuff like that. I highly recommend it.
Jeez.
Alex, you said your kids were playing with it though. What did
Yeah,
that look like?
I think Vikas can just put in right now one of the things one of my kids asked, which is
Yeah.
in Unreal Engine, how can you make a skeleton bend its fingers really, really far back?
All right, let's see here. So in Unreal Engine,
Yeah.
should I say 5?
Yeah, I think it'll give the same answer
Okay.
either way. I think
How
5. Yeah.
so in Unreal Engine, how sorry, say that one more
How
time.
do you make a skeleton bend its fingers really, really far back?
Fingers really.
Please
really
tell me it told you to use like IK solvers and stuff like that. That'd be great.
We're gonna find out.
Oh, it's thinking.
It's thinking.
It's having trouble.
It's gonna come out as a limerick, guaranteed. Really far back. Here are the general steps. Okay.
Wow, this is crazy. God, I wish this was right when I was first playing around with Unreal Engine. It would save me like freaking days.
Right? Yeah.
This is crazy.
Create a new animation sequence and use it.
I like that it started off really, really slow and then just
Yeah.
Just powered through. Let me try this. Can you?
I mean, it's definitely wrong,
response?
but we'll take it. We'll take it.
Oh, is it wrong? Yeah.
I mean, that's
don't
the
know
thing. And
yeah,
I'm a believer overall, but with Unreal Engine, it looks right, but it is. I've never seen anything that was completely accurate.
I'm asking it to rewrite this as a West Coast rap now.
Oh my god.
Oh man, this is pretty good. Yo, listen up. I got a solution for that skeleton that needs some motion in Unreal Engine. It's all good. Just use them animation tools like you should. This is insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
Please, one more verse.
Yeah.
A little skill, you'll be on your way, making skeletons bend in any way. West Coast style, we keep it lit. With animation skills, we never quit. Wow. That is truly something.
Oh, I can't believe this.
It actually used the word lit. I don't know if I've ever seen ChatGPT do that.
Yeah.
That confirms ChatGPT Gen Z. All right.
Yeah, that's true.
I want everyone
Right.
to mark that. It's
That's
just
incredible.
aged itself.
Wow, really? Yeah.
It complains all the
going.
time about the fact that its knowledge cutoff was when it was like 20. Right? When you enter certain things, it says, "Oh, my knowledge ends in the year blah blah blah." I can't remember what.
Oh yeah. That's right. I think 2020, maybe 2021. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a classic millennial.
Okay, a couple more shout outs. Vikas, do you want to pull up the Unreal Engine Marketplace thing? This is
Yeah. Let's see here.
questions. It's the very
Actually,
last
let's
thing
see.
in the chat.
Is it the VCR stuff? Is that it?
No, the very last link in the Zoom chat.
Okay, let me pull that up here. Sorry, I missed this. Oh yeah, Corey live link.
Yeah, so this is one of the Corys that we already shouted out after Unreal Fest because we got to have Corey Strasburger, and this Corey, who just came out with this really lovely live link plugin. So those of us who know live link face, great for like metahumans and 3D characters. And he's made it work with just about any object, like any asset you have that you want to slap a face onto and animate. It works great. And he has this awesome YouTube channel, Kid Show, that he does this stuff with. And I think he gets how to make compelling content. So very kind of him to not only make this asset for himself, but now to open it up to the rest of us. $14.99, what a bargain. Check it out.
Yeah.
Can we see the preview? Is there a preview video?
Yeah. There's let's see here. There's I don't know if there's is there a video here? Maybe I missed it. I'm not seeing a video. Just
Yeah, he's made.
I can.
Made some
No,
videos.
that's okay. That's okay.
Oh, you know what? Here's oh, here we go. It's on YouTube. Okay, here I'll pull it
Yeah,
up.
I want to see this real quick because this looks funny.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I can just skip over to something where we're actually looking at the.
Yeah. Just
There you
there
go.
we go. Oh, that's awesome.
Right?
So for the people who are
Yeah.
listening, we got two big cubes, and he's talking to his phone, and they're animating quite well. That's awesome.
That's so cool.
One of the things we talked about, a few episodes ago was with a lot of the solutions that are coming out across things like AI, and I guess this is a common theme with today's episode as well. It's just the kind of accessibility that we're starting to build into these applications means that there's just going to be so many more creators out there, and that's one of the big, you know, things with AI and generative AI that I'm really excited about. It's the fact that we're going to get people who were not able to use some of these tools before, giving them the ability to use that and create new kinds of content. I mean, look at this. I think you could probably do this in 10 minutes, having never touched Unreal. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and these faces, you can just slap them on anything. Any asset you have at all, they'll just almost be like a decal on top of it.
That's crazy.
So cool.
I don't know, Jacob. Maybe we should make some avatars of us and just do the show as
With those,
Yeah,
yeah,
those guys. Yeah, we should do it.
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Awesome. I think I'm just about out of. Clippy was my only shout out for this week. I don't know how that happened. I will tell the listeners though I got a concussion over the New Year's,
no.
so I'm going to
Oh.
blame that for now, and say that I wasn't on Twitter for a few weeks.
You have
even
to
though that
tell
was
us what
definitely
happened, though. Jacob,
Awesome.
can you tell us what happened? How'd you get a concussion?
Oh my god, it was the stupidest thing. So, and I'm gonna my typical thing has been saying, oh, it's nothing, whatever. But then people get all these crazy ideas in their head when you tell them you got a concussion. Everything from like, oh, was it snowboarding accident or was it something completely different, right? And I have to say, no. Actually, the way I got a concussion was I was just joking around with my fiance in my apartment, and there you go. And
Just looking this up, just in case you need this.
yeah, thanks. We were literally just joking about a song, and I was kind of like bobbing my head like I was at a rock concert, and apparently I can get a concussion from that.
Wow.
And it's the number of times that I've been told over the past few weeks, oh, that's like shaken baby syndrome but for adults. Has not made me feel good overall, as accurate as it is. So yeah, that's how it happened. I can't go to metal concerts anymore. I don't know what to do with my life.
Well, on that lovely note, thank you everyone for tuning in to the unofficial Unreal Engine podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. Special thanks to Alan Scott for being our producer and to our guest, Vikas Reddy. And see you all next time. Cheers.
Wait. Before you go, like, subscribe.
I said that.
Did you? I'm going to say it again.
Say it again.
I'm having a great time this week.
Yeah.
All right, we'll catch you on the next episode, everyone.
I think you might need this concussion protocol.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
Jacob.
all right.
I think this is actually
It's amazing.